Let's take a look at the Symetrix Jupyter software and some of the applications that are available. When you first open the program, the first thing it'll do is it'll ask you, do you want to start a new app? Do you want to open one you already have? And I am going to start a new app and click OK. And we are brought up to all of our options here. We have options for our Jupyter 4, Jupyter 8, and Jupyter 12 for most of the applications. And you'll notice there's a BGM zone mixer. There's a dual matrix mixer, there's some gain sharing auto mixers, there's gating auto mixers, there's home theater, line processing, mic processing, priority zone mixers, SPL computers for retail, several different for sound reinforcement, different versions of crossovers, etc., and some stereo mixers, some transits with SPL computers and paging. Let's just go over and take a quick walk through some of these, and I'll let you see them. What I did is I clicked on one and hit preview, and it opens up a browser window, and so I'm going to bounce over to that browser window real quickly, and we're going to take a look at some of these applications. So I ran down and just pulled up the Jupyter 8s only, and as you can see, there are about 30 possible different pre-programmed systems, and once you load that program, then the signal flow is fixed, but you can go into any one of these blocks and edit all of the details inside that. So here is the background zone mixer one. You can see you got background music and stereo pairs and some priorities and some speaker management. And then you go into dual matrix number one and similar kind of idea, some feedback filters. So if you had microphones and speaker managers, matrix and a submatrix. And then we go into gain sharing versions. Auto mixer number one has feedback filters on the mic inputs, gain sharing mixers, a matrix, speaker processing. Number three is very, very similar, but moves the feedback fighter to the output side, and we'll go back to getting a gain sharing auto mixer number two. This basically just loses all your speaker processing and is just using it as a front end auto mixer. And then if we go into the gating versions of that, same thing. 1 and 3 are very similar. You just move the feedback filter to on the front or the back side of the matrix, and number 2 is just using it as a simple matrix mixer alone, or auto mixer alone, excuse me, and that's the gating version or the gain sharing version. Then we can go into some home theater things here. This got stereo with a mono sub. We have another home theater 2 where we can do our stereo inputs and route them to different zones with speaker management. We have a line processor, which we can look at high pass filters, low pass filters, de-essers, parametrics. This is something you could maybe even insert into a mixing console in a live event. We have a mic processor, once again, something you could use as an insert on a mixing console and do some extra processing on the individual microphones. Here is a priority zone mixer. We have 3 different background music sources, stereo music sources with 2 paging mics and the different zones that we can go into. We have Priority Zone Mixer 2, a different version of that with some different zones, and this adds in the SPL computer, which is where we put a sensing microphone in the room. So this one has 2 paging mics, 1 background, and 4 different sensing microphones for the 4 different zones, and it would automatically raise and lower the volume as needed depending on the ambient noise in the room. So then we can go over to the retail SPL, similar paging mics, sensing mics for 6 zones, and we have the sound reinforcement number 1. This is a stereo 4-way crossover, primarily in speaker filters and all that. Stereo 3-way crossover plus an extra one. Also, these all have FIR filters capable, so you can load in FIR filters for your favorite speakers. 2-way crossovers times 4. We have a different one here for sound reinforcement number 4 with different gains and matrix, 2 speaker processings, and then we're going out to different outputs, so more of a distributed system. And then this one here is more of a 1 in, 1 out with 2-way crossovers, so really kind of 4 outputs of 2-way. And this is more of the 1 in, 1 out system. So here reinforcement number 7 has 2 2-way crossovers and 4 full range. This one has 2 2-way crossovers and 4 full range as well, just a different combinations, a little more of a hard limiter type of system, maybe the very back end of protection. And here's another version with 8 in, 8 out. Another version where we have 2 microphones with a gain sharing auto mixer and feedback fighters on top of your others, so you could have your main speaker system but then still have a microphone if you needed it. So a lot of times live events you want to kill the console and still have a microphone available, you can do that. Here's another source selector matrix and stereo source selections, and another sound reinforcement that you can see at different combinations of inputs and outputs as well. Then we can mount to some stereo mixers, and we have some stereo selectors, distributors. Here's another stereo one with the SPL computers. Once again, 4 zones with 4 sensing microphones and 2 stereo inputs. Another version of that geared more towards a train station or something like that, where we have some background music, some paging, and it needs to go up and down very quickly. And another version of that where we have 3 sources and 4 zones and that kind of thing. So there's a quick example of what we get when we go into the Jupiter software, but let's just go back real quickly and let's just say we're going into gain sharing or maybe gating auto mixer number 1, and we hit OK. So what that's going to do is that's going to load it right here into our processor. And from there, we can go into any one of these blocks and click on them and set all our parameters. Go back to home, click on another block, set the parameters for that block, go back to home, etc. until you have the system that you need. So once again, Jupiter, very powerful, yet very simple and very flexible. And then we go add our remote controls, either hardwired remotes, or we can do it with any web browser. So the Jupiter, coming in 4x4, 8x8, or 12x4, can be used in a lot of applications. It does have a ceiling. We only have 1 gating auto mixer or 1 auto mixer in each system. So if you needed multiple auto mixers, that's when you go to Composer and you go to the open architecture that's offered in our Solus, our Prism, or our Radius, or our Edge devices. But the Jupiter can be a great problem solver and do many, many applications very simply, very affordably.